What's up, people of YouTube? Welcome to another day in paradise. My name is Cody McCarty, and in today's video, we're going to be stacking up the 24 GM versus the 16-35 f2.8. Let's kick off this review. Now this video is going to be geared more towards my fellow photographers, but even if you aren't a photographer, I'd encourage you to stick around because we're going to capture some beautiful things. We're kicking off this first segment with some awesome classic cars. These cars will serve as a good test for image quality, contrast, and color reproduction between these two lenses. Now prime lenses are generally sharper than zoom lenses, however the 16-35 Gmaster lens is one of the sharpest zoom lenses ever made, so I think it's going to be a good comparison. And a lot of people have questions on whether or not 24 is a good focal length to have, or if a 16-35 is going to fit your needs a lot more. Let's start off with some pictures of these cars.
Okay, so I've already pulled the photos into Lightroom. Now, this first image, obviously, shot at 16 millimeters, so this is the 16-35. This isn't really going to be a good comparison because this is the 16 millimeter end, but you can see how much more we were able to get in the image. This is the 16-35 image at 24 millimeters. I was off by 1 millimeter, my bad. With f/5.6 because we're going to be testing the sharpness compared to the 24-1.4. For whatever reason, the 24-1.4 seems to be gathering more light. You can see it noticeably right here. When I'm at the 16-35, this red's a little bit darker, whereas on the 24-1.4, it's got a little bit more brightness to it. So that's really interesting to me because they're both at 5.6. If we zoom in on the portion of the image, you can see a lot more detail reproduction on the 24-1.4. Look at this right here, this little vent right here. And then let's switch back to the 16-35. It looks really grainy, not as much detail is able to be seen right there. So we have a little bit more detail, which is to be expected from a prime lens. But if we look at this part of the image right here, the detail we were able to save on the silver mirror right back here compared to the 16-35. The 16-35 lost a lot of detail in this mirror and it doesn't look super great. Now I wanted to compare how they handled extreme exposure grades, so being overexposed, how much detail they kept and how the images looked. Right here we have the 16-35 image and it looks pretty good considering that it's overexposed by 2 stops. We were able to keep a lot of detail. On the floor down here you can see that we have still detail in the floor. We have one part that's a little blown out. Now let's go to the 24-1.4. The image is brighter, so we've already established that the 24-1.4 just naturally lets in more light, even if it's at the same aperture. But that's something to be mindful of, is the 24-1.4 will just naturally let in more light. Now, when I underexpose the image on the 16-35 versus the 24-1.4, I am noticing that there is a dynamic range difference. I could be mistaken just because the 24 gathers more light, but focus on this corner right over here and look at how it's exposed. We switch over to 24-1.4 and we have a lot more detail in there. It's brighter. There's a better gradient between the shadow and the highlight here, where with the 16-35 image, there's almost no gradient right here. All in all, when it comes to image quality, the 16-35 competed pretty well for a zoom lens compared to a prime, but the 24-1.4, as we saw, got a lot more details, especially with this mirror back here, compared to the 16-35. 24-1.4, 16-35. One of the things I like about this lens is that it gathers more light, it's sharper, and it seems to do a little bit better with high contrast scenarios.
Now, for this first part of this test, I want to thank Colleen Sheehan with Ferraris Online. We're shooting her first video for her YouTube channel right now.
Yes.
And I want to take this moment to thank you for letting us test this lens with these beautiful cars. They're amazing. You're going to see a lot more of them on her YouTube channel. Check out their Instagram and you get to follow along. I'm sure that we're going to spend a lot of time in this shop together.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You're going to learn a lot more about cars than you ever thought you would.
Yeah, and we're going to Monterey Car Show. We're going to Monte Carlo.
No, the Monterey Pebble Beach car show in the end of August, and then we're also going to the Las Vegas Concours d'Elegance, which is their first ever concours in Las Vegas. And we're taking a couple different cars, and it'll be a lot of fun. He's going to be doing all the recording, and you know, it's going to be quite a blast.
She's giving me a crash course on cars too. My car knowledge, lack thereof knowledge, wasn't obvious.
We're improving it.
Exactly. One day at a time, but thank you for letting us use this car. Let's actually move on to the next part of this review. This shoot's taken a couple days, so you've already seen an outfit change. You're gonna see that a lot. Sorry, I'm not like Colleen wearing the same thing because she's a better actress than I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's better at this cinematography stuff.
The 10-take actress.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I just pressed the record button. Cool.
That works.
Let's go on. Just started our time lapses. Paul's getting a lower angle perspective. I'm getting the higher angle. We got our subject here. Hopefully we'll get some cool colors in the sky. And we'll switch over to our astro portion of this, where we're gonna move to our second location. That's gonna be exciting. Let's see what this 24-1.4 lens can do. If you guys watch my comparison to the 16-35 here, you guys already know what it can do. But hopefully we can film while we're at... Yeah. What am I saying? This heat is killing my brain.
Yeah, dude.
He's got like little judge.
They're ballsy.
We didn't feed them. Paul accidentally ripped open his pistachio bag and they fell. And these guys are being ballsy as all hell. And oh my god, they are big. Now we are out here shooting Astro with the 24-1.4, comparing it to the 16-35 Gmaster. And wow, just look at this. Paul, do you see that? We can literally see the galactic core in video with the 24-1.4 GM. That 2 extra stops of light is amazing. Sure, we're at ISO 51200. Yeah, it's noisy, but we are taking video right now. This isn't stills where it's 20-second exposures. Just, you could not do this with the 16-35 2.8, and I absolutely love it. I am blown away, and I can't wait to compare these images. Ooh, I'm like getting too excited. I can't wait to pull these images into Lightroom and compare them because it is just going to be phenomenal. We're out here capturing the behind the scenes of these Astro videos and of a Holy Grail time-lapse video that you guys are going to see soon too. And it's just exciting, and I love the fact that I have this lens and it can do all this. So let's kick off these behind the scenes and we'll compare images in a minute. Okay, so I kind of jumped the gun there with the B-roll. I actually showed you all the B-roll that we got on that trip. We'll pull up the Astro photos into Lightroom in just a second and do a comparison. But you might notice I have my 16-35 and my A7R3 right here. I'm showing you guys a video comparison with field of view. The reason I'm doing this right now is I'm actually selling this 16-35 to Colleen from Ferraris Online. We're actually back at the shop right now. we're capturing some footage for their second video. First video is linked down below, so that's exciting. Now, one of the things that I love about the 24-1.4 for video for vlogging is it blows out that background with the shallow depth of field, which is really nice. I like how sharp it is, I like the color reproduction, and it just suits my needs a little bit more. The 16-35, as much as I love how much it lets in, it doesn't fit my needs as much as I need it to. And there are rare cases where I really need 16. I prefer the 24 focal length. Now, with these cars, shooting inside of them, I do think 16 is gonna help over 24, but since it's staying in the family and I'm selling it to Colleen, she's over there, I think it's gonna be useful for those times we shoot the cars. Now, we're gonna pull up the photos in the Lightroom in just a second, but I just wanted to show you guys a field of view comparison. There's a reason I chose 3 topics to do this with. Whew, my arms are getting tired. I think the 24-1.4 is going to be geared towards street photographers, astrophotographers, and vloggers. 16-35 is going to be more landscape photographers, more, I would say, real estate photographers, even though it's kind of not wide enough for some real estate stuff. But that's our comparison. I'm going to sell this lens to Colleen, and we're going to record this next video, so bye-bye 16-35.
Okay, now let's wrap this up by talking about the astrophotography benefits of the 24-1.4 versus 16-35 Gmaster. Right here we have the 16-35 Gmaster. Here's kind of the big thing. I did an exposure of 25 seconds to get this. You can see all my exposure settings right here. If we zoom in, you'll see we're starting to get some star trailing, where if we go to the 10-second exposure, it's not as bright, but we aren't getting quite as much star trailing. Hardly any, actually. But we can see, even though we don't have star trailing, the 10-second exposure is preventing us from getting a lot of light in, and the image looks somewhat noisy. Let's hop over to the 24 image. So this is the 24-1.4 at f2.8. We're comparing it at f2.8 just to see sharpness and so forth. Now I know the 16-35 one might look sharper, but that's because I missed focus when taking these photos. You can see that I accidentally got focus on the statue. That was my bad here. However, for this comparison, I can show the biggest benefit of using the 24-1.4, and that's to have it open at 1.4. I have copied the exposure settings between the 24-1.4 image and the 16-35 10-second exposure image, and you can see it got a lot more light in. This is actually a little bit bright, so we'd have to tone that down just a little bit. I really like the fact that I get so much light and it makes it so bright, but this comparison isn't good because I missed focus with the 24-1.4. So we're gonna hop over to one of these photos right down here. Here we go. Look at that. I absolutely love how much detail I was able to get. You can see the differences in the galactic core, all the gas elements and stuff like that are in the galactic core, and just so much detail was captured with the stars. I am truly blown away though by this lens. The fact that I was able to get so much detail. It looks like a tracked image. I've never been able to capture so much detail in the galactic core with the 16-35. So when it comes to astrophotography, the 24-1.4 is the lens to have. I do like having the field of view and the ability to change my field of view with the 16-35. I was able to get this part of the serpent where I couldn't get it with the 24. But compression does look pretty nice when you're taking an image like this. It just makes it a little bit more punchy. There you have some of my differences between the 16-35 and the 24-1.4. Sorry I couldn't get nitty gritty. I messed up the original photo comparison, but you can definitely see a lot more detail in the galactic core than with the 16-35. Just, it looks more punchy, more contrasty. Give it a second to render. Just, it looks better, it looks sharper, it looks cleaner.
Now, this is the end of the review, and I hopefully was able to show you guys some big key differences between these two lenses. I kind of stated earlier that I can only afford to have one of these lenses, and if I was to choose one, which I have, it would be the 24-1.4 GM. It fits my purposes, it blows out this background, it gives me a nice shallow depth of field with a wide angle lens. It allows me to capture very nice, vibrant star images. It allows me to get more detail, more color, more contrast in those images.
and overall it's a sharper lens. 16-35 has served me great. I love it. I love the versatility of zoom lenses. However, it is time for me to grow as a creator, and I think prime lenses allow me to do that. Yes, I may miss the larger field of view. I may miss being able to punch into 35, but the pros to this lens greatly outweigh the cons of not having the 16-35, especially with those astro photos. I wish I'd done a better comparison. I was just kind of caught up recording a bunch of things, several videos in fact. We are actually going to be working on a Holy Grail video. It's the next video, so if you guys aren't already, consider hitting that subscribe button to learn how to do Holy Grail time lapses soon. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. It goes a long way to helping out this video and helping out this channel. Feel free to give your comments or questions, and I'd love to answer them. But for now, my name is Cody McCarty. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.